Because you can see avatars of other people. I think when you see them of yourself, though, and you see how realistic they look, that's when you can really gauge just how crazy this technology is.
Welcome to Sidecar Sync, your weekly dose of innovation. If you're looking for the latest news, insights, and developments in the association world, especially those driven by artificial intelligence, you're in the right place. We cut through the noise to bring you the most relevant updates with a keen focus on how AI and other emerging technologies are shaping the future. No fluff, just facts and informed discussions. I'm Amith Nagarajan, chairman of Blue Cypress, and I'm your host.
Greetings and welcome to the Sidecar Sync. My name is Amith Nagarajan.
And my name is Mallory Mejias.
And we are your hosts. Today, as always, we have some exciting stuff for you guys at the intersection of associations and AI. How are you doing, Mallory?
I'm doing pretty well, Amith. I know it's been a minute since you and I have recorded an episode. Sometimes we have to bulk batch these episodes, a few in 1 week. So I haven't seen you in a bit, but all is well over here in Atlanta. How have things been for you?
Things have been good. I've been bouncing around a little bit, helped out an association out on the West Coast with a keynote at their conference, I think 2 weeks ago. It all blends together, and have been bouncing around doing things and about to head west again to participate in a hackathon for a week, working with a number of our colleagues across our family of businesses, building all sorts of cool new things in AI. So I always enjoy those. Those are fun opportunities to think creatively and do some fun engineering work as well. So excited about that. And yeah, there's just been a lot going on. So it's down here in New Orleans. I don't know if Atlanta's caught up. Last time we discussed this topic of weather, I had said it was annoyingly hot already here in the Big Easy, but yeah, and you had said that the weather was awesome in Atlanta, I think that particular day, or is it still nice?
It's getting hotter. I'll say it is hot here in Atlanta. I think, though, it's funny how quickly people adjust because it's still only right now, 82 degrees, right? So in New Orleans, 82 is like, ooh, 82, this is kind of nice outside. Now I'm spoiled and I think, 82 degrees is so hot. 75 degrees is kind of hot too. So I think it's all relative, but things are getting warmer here in Atlanta. But as I've mentioned, I really like to do outdoor activities. So I'm excited to kick out those new bikes we got. We just got some new helmets, so we're going to be riding around Atlanta safely. I wanted to ask Amith about your keynote, because you mentioned on the pod before you work on your keynotes well in advance, but then you're also kind of fine-tuning them down to the last minute because things are changing so quickly. So what did you present on? Was it more of a general AI talk, or did you focus in on like any recent development?
Usually what associations ask me to do is to give them a picture of the landscape of AI.
Okay.
So certain fundamental elements of that are quite durable, I would say, the overall exponential landscape of change. And what I talk about a lot is how to think about AI, not so much in terms of tool number one or tool number two, but more about like what will happen. How do you anticipate the change and the rate of change? And therefore, when you plan about, what are you going to go build or how are you going to utilize this stuff, how to build that thinking into your roadmap and your adoption process. Most people are used to thinking about adopting tech by studying the technology and then thinking about a roadmap for that technology. That's essentially a snapshot in time. If you were to evaluate a new CRM software, you might say, okay, well, let me pick between Salesforce and HubSpot and Pipedrive and so on and so forth. And then you choose one and then you implement it. It might take you 3 months, 6 months longer to implement it. And then your plan to use it would be based upon the assumption that the functionality is really pretty much what you evaluated when you first looked at it. And in the world of traditional software, that's okay. I mean, software changes pretty quickly, even pre-AI. But in the world of AI, when models are doubling in power every 6 months, almost like clockwork, it's very difficult to use that mindset. You have to look at it with much more of a predictive approach where you say, I'm going to build an implementation plan, what will likely be in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months time, and therefore build that into the roadmap and essentially build to what you anticipate to have, which is a little bit scary for people, actually. So I spent a lot of time talking about trying to acclimate to that new reality. That part generally stays the same, but then the examples change. And then what I try to do for each audience is to tailor the content in a way where it really hits home, where I can use examples that are in their world, which is a bit of a stretch for me. And actually part of fun is that, you learn about these different groups and what they do, whether it's in medicine or law or accounting or science somewhere. So it's good fun. I really enjoy it. And it helps me a lot in leading the Blue Cypress family, thinking about our vision, thinking about where we want to go, because a lot of what I need to do is understand with as much depth as possible the challenges and opportunities associations have. So when I'm in the mix as part of the delivery of one of their most important services, which conferences tend to be, that's an incredible feedback loop for me to bring back ideas saying, hey, well, what about these things that our team may get value from? And quite a number of us on the leadership team across Blue Cypress and various companies within BC are out there providing these kinds of keynotes to association conferences. So we have a really good network of folks bringing that kind of feedback back into the mix.
So going into the hackathon next week, which I think when this episode drops, it'll be next week. So you're at the hackathon right now. If you're listening to the Sidecar Sync podcast, are you focusing on any specific visions that you have, or what's the direction? If you want to share, maybe it's a secret.
There's no secret really. It's my vision at the moment is mountain biking and e-foiling on the lakes up in Utah where I'll be. That's two of my favorite activities in the summer, and so I'm envisioning doing a lot of that next week. I don't know how much I'll actually get to do because hackathons are all about writing code for 16 hours a day and eating far too much pizza. But we'll get out there a little bit and do some of that. But in terms of AI specifically, I think that we'll be focusing almost exclusively on agentic software, meaning so we talk a lot about agents here. We have a number of AI agents already in our portfolio at Blue Cypress, like Betty and Skip, and we're adding a couple more that are in the earlier stages. What we've built is our open source framework, Member Junction, is our AI data platform. It's the freely available AI data platform we've talked about quite a few times on this pod. We've added a number of infrastructure features there for building agents, where the goal is essentially for a business person, not a technology person, to be able to construct their own agents inside an enterprise-ready AI data platform. So not building simple agents in a consumer tool, but being able to use the same conversational style of interface, talking to an AI to say, hey, I want to build an agent that does these things, but you're in a totally secure data ecosystem with your data from all over your organization brought together. So we're working on that, and then we're building some additional agents on top of that foundation layer. So quite exciting stuff.
Absolutely. Dare I say, is that vibe coding, having a business person go in and build their own agent?
Well, we'll be up in the mountains, so there'll be a very good vibe. And we will be working with Claude Code, I'm sure. We'll be working with some of the other advanced agentic coding tools that are out there. So yes, I guess you could say that, although everyone there is a professional developer. And so we'll be getting into the code, actually doing some coding as well, side by side with our good friend Claude.
Good vibes all the way around. All right. Well, in today's episode, we've got some exciting topics lined up. First, we're going to be talking about what's new in AI video and audio, one of our favorite topics. And then we're going to be having a discussion around an interesting paper that was released called The Illusion of Thinking that I'm excited to talk about. So first and foremost, what's new in AI video and audio? I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about ElevenLabs, one of our faves, and then HeyGen, another one of our faves as well. So ElevenLabs has launched 11 V3 Alpha, and this new model offers unprecedented expressiveness, emotional depth, and fine-grained control over speech delivery, making it particularly well-suited for creative and professional applications like audiobooks, video narration, educational content, and interactive storytelling. 11 V3 introduces advanced audio tags, so think whisper or angry or giggles, laughs, sighs. And this allows users to direct tone, emotion, and pacing directly within the script. This enables more nuanced performances, including nonverbal reactions and mid-sentence mood shifts. The model supports multi-speaker conversations with natural interruptions and emotional transitions, allowing for seamless interaction between characters. It also supports over 70 languages, up from 33 in previous versions, covering approximately 90% of the world's population. This makes it highly accessible for global content creation and multilingual projects. The model's new architecture allows for better stress, cadence, and expressivity from text input, resulting in more human-like and dynamic speech. I will say achieving the best results with ElevenLabs or 11 V3 requires more precise prompting and script annotation compared to earlier models. As much as I can explain about this, I feel like the best way to understand what 11 V3 is about is to insert a quick clip from their demo. So I'm going to do that now.
Hey Jessica, have you tried the new 11 V3?
I just got it. The clarity is amazing. I can actually do whispers now. Like this.
Ooh, fancy. Check this out. I can do full Shakespeare now. To be or not to be, that is the question.
Nice. Though I'm more excited about the laugh upgrade. Listen to this.
That's so much better than our old ha 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 robot chuckle.
I know, right? And apparently we can do accents now too. Fancy a cup of tea?
Wow, V2 me could never. I'm actually excited to have conversations now instead of just talking at people.
You will see that demo is pretty impressive. You're hearing the whispering, you're hearing the wit, the personality, the back and forth between the narrators. I went in and played around with 11 V3 myself, and I told Amith this before the recording. What I was able to create was not as good as what was shown in the demo. I don't think that's anything shocking, right? You always put your best foot forward in the demo. It took me probably, I want to say I played with it like 15 to 20 tries to get the clip that I'm going to show you a little bit later in this podcast. But overall, I really like the added annotations. Just being able to provide that guidance and direction is incredibly helpful. 11 V3 is still undergoing refinement, so some users are reporting audio tags might not always be interpreted as intended, which was similar to the experience that I had. But overall, really impressive and exciting on the ElevenLabs front. So, Amith, I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think ElevenLabs is maintaining its spot as a leader in AI and audio?
I think so. I think this the demo is incredible, and we say that each time there's a new kind of step change in quality. But our natural modality as humans is audio, right? We speak to each other, we listen to each other, and it's various forms of audio. And so the expressiveness of this new model is really what's unprecedented. The ability to control the model, to hint at the model, to be able to give it these different extra tags is a dream come true, actually, if you're doing text-to-speech. It's something we've been talking about and thinking about as users of a variety of text-to-speech technologies for some time. So I find it exciting. I think the race is so close that new models from other vendors are both coming in parallel. OpenAI introduced a new text-to-speech model just about a month or so ago, so I certainly would not count them out. It's a major category that all the major labs, I think, are going to play in at some level. So I find that exciting. Competition is a great thing. 11 has been a leader in this category. I love their hyper-focus. The fact that this is the thing they do. It really keeps them, I think, on edge and moving ahead and experimenting in new ways. You pointed out it's an alpha release, which in software land means that it's not even good enough to be a beta. So if you use beta software and you've kind of, felt like occasionally you get bonked on the head because it's a beta software tool, alpha tools are even more raw. So it's definitely it's kind of in test phase. I wouldn't use it for anything production-like. You're definitely not supposed to do that. But it's nonetheless, at the speed at which AI moves, it will be beta if they even do that. And then production quality probably within a handful of months, if not sooner. So I'm super pumped about this. I think this is an opportunity to communicate more effectively and to add really more enjoyment to a lot of communications that would otherwise potentially be very dry.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I had the experience probably 2 years ago now of working on a short film with a good friend of mine, and I didn't realize how important audio is. We did a lot of research, looking at low budget short films and things that you could do to help bring up the quality. And essentially, it wasn't necessarily the type of camera you use, though that's important. It was the audio. If you had bad audio quality, if people couldn't hear well, then your film's not going to do well. So I think having AI audio that's so impressive is really essential for associations. I know we rolled out our new AI Learning Hub content using ElevenLabs for audio. Everyone, if you haven't checked out our most recent episode I did with Jason Marchese about content creation and like the whole workflow around that, please check it out. It was an incredible episode. But I'm curious from your take, Amith. We rolled it out, I guess, a few weeks ago at this point, maybe a month ago. What has the reception been on using AI audio and AI avatars, which we're going to discuss as well?
A couple different things on that. So we, at the beginning of every one of our courses, introduce the instructor, and the instructor is an AI avatar. Each avatar is given a persona, essentially a name, a personality, and obviously an avatar, which is the video, and a voice. And so the idea there is to build the personality of those instructors over time, so you get to know them, and different instructors will have different areas of expertise to essentially give them human-like qualities, while at the same time introducing themselves very, very clearly as AI avatars. So that's kind of an AI ethics conversation, right? That you really should, in our opinions anyway, you should really disclose the use of AI. I don't see it as a negative at all. I just see it as an imperative to tell people that it is AI, to be on the up and up about that. But we have received really positive feedback that the quality of the audio, the quality of the content is really good. We can make changes quickly. That's the reason, that was our motivation in doing that. We like talking plenty over here at Sidecar, but we like to be able to change the content extremely rapidly to keep up with the pace of AI. So ElevenLabs, along with HeyGen, which I know we're going to be talking about a little bit later, have given us the ability through a number of software innovations we've created to stitch it all together, a mechanism to publish new content really, really fast. So it's been positive. And I've been excited about that because we were a little bit fearful of, I wouldn't call it so much that we thought we might have a backlash, but we just thought we might have some people that felt it wasn't ready for prime time. And we've gotten a little bit of critical feedback, but primarily it's been super positive. And some of the nitpicking, nitpicking might be the wrong word to use. I think it's kind of nitpicking, but it's basically saying things that are like, certain words weren't expressed perfectly and all that. Totally get it, and I agree with it. We're going to get to the point where it's 100% perfect. But I would say simply that, I can speak for myself. I use far more filler words than I would like to. When I listen to recordings of myself, I can't stand it because there's uhs and ums and all sorts of other annoying things. And AI does not do that unless you tell it to, right? If you tell AI to be human-like, it'll probably start doing all the things that you hear me do. In any event, I think that it's really positive. I think that at the same time, what we're about to be able to do in the next generation, once we get access to a production version of V3, will be really cool because we will be able to put all sorts of new forms of expression into the same exact audio script, but by adding these kinds of tags, we'll be able to make the really key points hit home better, but I think we'll be able to make it a lot more fun. Right? If you think back to maybe even high school or middle school and you think about some of your experiences there from a learning perspective that were most formative, oftentimes it's with a teacher who found a way to engage the classroom through humor and still teaching a very important lesson, whatever it was. And that's been my experience, certainly in the classroom as a student years ago. And I think that if we can find ways to scale that, there's incredible power in delivering better and better educational experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think back to my high school teachers that were really funny, even in a class like AP statistics, right? That can't be that fun, but there's ways to incorporate humor. Wow. And I will say, as someone who tried out 11 V3, as I mentioned, something that's pretty neat that you can do, because it might seem a bit daunting to have to put your whole script into 11 V3 and then manually go through and add all your own tags. You can actually press a button, I think it's called Enhance, and then ElevenLabs just puts tags where it thinks they belong, and it at least gives you a start. So you can say, okay, well, no, I don't want to laugh here, but I do want excitement here. Maybe I want a British accent. I don't know. But you can do that all within ElevenLabs, which is pretty neat.
That is super cool. I find that very exciting. I think that, the AI, there's multiple layers of AI happening here, right? So you mentioned this earlier in the overview of this new model's availability, that there's better understanding of the text itself in order to suggest to you where it should insert those tags to add emphasis or add a laugh or whisper or shout or whatever it is. Those are things that deeper understanding of the content has to be in place. So this is a good example of the compounding of these models
Mm-hmm.
and the leverage of using one model to train another model to make another model smarter. So ElevenLabs V3 is in the audio modality, specifically text to speech, but it's sitting on top of all of the innovations that are happening in language models and perhaps other things that we're not aware of. The other comment I wanted to make about this is that when we were working on building the technology to enable this new form of content production for all of our LMS content, we did not believe that the technology at the time, ElevenLabs and HeyGen, was good enough to do what we wanted to do. We actually thought that it was fairly poor quality. So we started talking about this last fall. This is not a concept that was new to us. We're like, yeah, this is amazing. We, at some point, will be able to create all sorts of content this way. Well, early this year, we started experimenting with the software pipeline to be able to stitch all this together, what you and Jason spoke of in the prior episode, which I would also encourage everyone to check out. It's really cool. But in that process, we knew that it would take us probably 2-3 months to really build the software. And what we were betting on was that either at that point in time, when the software was ready, or soon thereafter, the underlying models, the audio and video models, would be good enough. And we were essentially riding that wave, looking to see not so much where the audio and video models are today, but what we are fairly certain they will be able to do in 6 months or 12 months' time, and building for that. So it kind of reinforces what I was saying earlier about what I try to teach audiences about anticipating the AI curve and then building for what will likely be in the near future. And there's a little bit of risk to that because you might be a little bit early and you might have to wait. But that's actually a much better place to be, in my opinion, than being late to the party with something that's underwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Building with a vision in mind. And now that you have that infrastructure, you get to ride this wave of just better and better quality. Like when this is production ready, roll out 11 V3 in the content production line, and then HeyGen Avatars if that's what you want to do. So I feel like you're, of course that's what we think on the Sidecar Sync podcast, but I think arriving early is better than late.
No surprise there.
At Sidecar, we know the power of bringing the brightest, most innovative minds out there together in person to learn and grow. And that's exactly what we do at our annual conference, digitalNow. digitalNow is a 2.5-day conference bringing Silicon Valley and executive-level content to the association space. We bring in expert speakers from places like Google, Amazon, and the U.S. Department of State to share insights on emerging technologies and how they're reshaping the future of associations. Whether you come solo or bring your team to collaborate and implement together, you'll leave with a clear vision for what's next. Join us November 2nd through 5th, 2025 at the Lowe's Hotel in Chicago. To secure your spot, visit digitalnow.sidecar.ai.
You're hearing about AI agents everywhere, chatbots, data analysts, personalization engines. But here's the problem. They all need unified data to work properly. If your association's data is scattered across your AMS, LMS, and other systems, you're not ready for AI. It's that simple. Member Junction is the open source AI data platform that brings everything together. So when you're ready to deploy those AI agents, your data is ready too. Don't let data silos hold back your AI future. Learn more at memberjunction.com.
This is a good segue to HeyGen Avatar 4, which is a next generation avatar engine that transforms a single photo into a lifelike talking video with synchronized voice, facial expressions, and for the first time, pretty realistic hand gestures, all without the need for a camera or motion capture. Avatar 4's diffusion-inspired audio-to-expression engine analyzes vocal tone, rhythm, and emotion to generate photorealistic facial movements, head tilts, pauses, micro-expressions, making the avatar's performance feel pretty authentic and human-like. As I mentioned, Avatar 4 is introducing those natural hand movements that are synchronized with the speech, adding depth and expressiveness to every video. It's funny, as I'm saying this, if you can see me, I'm moving my hands. Might be priming myself there. It supports a wide range of avatars, including hyper-realistic human clones, which is the example I did, stylized characters, anime, and even animal avatars. It works with portrait, half-body, and full-body images. The model can also adapt to various image perspectives, front-facing, tilted heads, profiles, angled poses, delivering a faithful render regardless of the original photo's orientation. So, a quick overview of how this works. 1, upload your photo. Like I said, portrait, half body, full body. You can type in your script directly in HeyGen, or you can upload an audio file from another platform. So you can probably see where I'm headed here. I used ElevenLabs V3, and then I combined it with HeyGen Avatar 4. I'll show that video in just a moment. And then you'll see the video at the end where the avatar speaks, reacts, and gestures in sync with your audio input and produces that video in just a few minutes, to be honest. Standout capabilities, in my opinion, are the fact that, kind of what we were talking about with 11 V3, Avatar 4 interprets the script. So it's not just syncing the words, but it's also reacting to the tone, pacing, and emotion, and that gets you a more natural delivery in the end. So I used 11 V3 to create this voice, and then I took it into HeyGen. I used my LinkedIn professional headshot, and I'm going to include the video now of what I created.
I'm AI avatar Mallory. What you see on screen was created using one single photo in HeyGen. My audio is brought to you via ElevenLabs V3. Time for me to get some avatar coffee. See ya.
It's a pretty short clip, as you can see. I think it was maxing me out at 15 seconds for the video, so I had to make the audio script pretty short. Pretty impressive. Amith, I know when I shared an earlier version of this with you, you were impressed as well. Of course, there's always the uncanny valley of watching an avatar version of yourself, but I almost feel like it's an essential step to do because you can see avatars of other people. I think when you see them of yourself, though, and you see how realistic they look, that's when you can really gauge just how crazy this technology is. So, Amith, based on this topic, we're seeing huge quality improvements with AI audio and video. We're experimenting a lot at Sidecar with it. Do you currently see a lot of associations dabbling with AI audio and video?
You know, I am starting to see more and more. I think the dabbling is on very small elements initially. Video is really an amazing area of progress for AI, and HeyGen, along with Synthesia and a number of other companies, are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with specialized models around avatars. I think are worth calling out versus VO3 or other general purpose video models, which are also super interesting. But these avatar-oriented videos are focused specifically on really you as a person or an individual and facial expressions, and now body movements, hand gestures, these kinds of things. And we've seen some major improvements there. When you sent me that first version, Mallory, if I didn't know your voice quite well, I would actually probably have been, it would have been possible to fool me. I knew it wasn't real because the voice was obviously not your audio. You hadn't yet tried to train an ElevenLabs version of yourself and all that. So, but I think we're almost through the uncanny valley in a sense, right? Because it's so good that it is, if the avatar is a lookalike of a person, the ability for most of us to detect that it's AI is, I think we're well past that actually in many respects. This is also another point in time where it's worth maybe touching on ethics for a second. This is also where I think there's different approaches to this. I think there's value in AI avatars that represent us, where you know, if you choose to do so with your own likeness, to create your own avatar, create your videos from there, if you have permission to do so from people and they fully understand what it means that you can create videos of any kind, then that's great. But I also think there's plenty of opportunity for entirely AI-generated characters to be formed and to use those, even if some of those are intentionally a little bit less human, where maybe they're a little bit cartoonish or something like that, where you use these in order to express the ideas, the content, the entertainment, but intentionally have a gap between the truest expression of human-like form. So I think there's options there. There's opportunities and there's options and there's things to be thinking about. Just because we can impersonate a video of a true human to such a degree of perfection doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we should do in all cases. I think it's an option. By the way, just as a side note, to call out for all of our audio only friends that are listening on various podcast channels, we do have a YouTube channel, and it is worth checking out our YouTube channel from time to time, particularly for episodes like this, because you'll get to not only see Mallory and myself speaking, but you'll also see these demos with a little bit more resolution than you can get through audio only. But my general point of view is this, is that audio and video are these two modalities that obviously go hand in hand. They train off of each other. Improvements just keep on coming. I think the opportunities are there. Coming back to your question, I anticipate seeing an explosion of use cases in the association sector. I think there's some hesitancy around privacy and around ethics, and that's why I kind of point to those topics a lot when I speak to audio or video use cases, because it is appropriately a very sensitive topical area. And I think the approach is, number one, be totally transparent, and number two, be creative about it. You don't necessarily have to clone your most well-known speakers at your annual conference. You can do other things. So there's a lot of opportunity here.
Mm-hmm. I also want to note, Amith, I know you and myself, we created HeyGen Avatars probably in 2023 sometime. I think it was around there, mid-23. And the process to create it wasn't difficult, but you had to submit a video of yourself speaking. It was like 2 minutes long. You had to take a break after every sentence, close your mouth. So just in less than 2 years, basically, just to be able to drop a single photo into HeyGen and then create this whole video of yourself or of another character, like you mentioned, I think is really neat. Amith, I'm curious because we all know you're an avid AI user like myself. Do you ever use your AI avatar for any business purposes?
No, I never have used it for business purposes. Actually, it's interesting. When I recorded my AI avatar with HeyGen a while back, I think it was a little bit over 18 months ago, I did have one of my dogs in the background on a chair. And I was quite interested to see whether or not HeyGen would pick up on his movements, because he happened to be moving around a little bit. And it did. It not only picked up, so when you watch recordings, or generations, I should say, not recordings from that avatar, it shows me speaking. And it's a pretty low grade version of an avatar compared to what we're doing now. It's very obviously not real, but it's close. It was interesting. It also shows my dog moving around. So it's pretty cool. But in any event, yeah, I have not used it yet. I don't know that I'm really not comfortable with it. I just don't know that I've had a reason to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking maybe this already exists, but I don't know. If you had your video off in a Zoom call or a Teams call for whatever reason, maybe you have your avatar there speaking while you speak. I don't know if that's quite possible yet, but I don't really want an AI avatar version of myself, to be totally honest. I think I'm just good with the real thing for now.
Yeah. I'm not there either, but that doesn't mean that others wouldn't be quite compelled by this for different reasons. And I do think one of the use cases that's going to be very interesting is real-time interaction with avatars. So, for example, going back to the learning scenario, we're not doing this yet with Sidecar's Learning Hub, but it's definitely on the roadmap when the technology is sufficiently far along, which is to say, hey, we have our AI instructors, and right now there's 5 different AI instructors across our courses. And by the way, we have a whole bunch of courses in development that are super exciting. We're going to be going from 7 different courses on AI for associations on the Learning Hub to over a dozen as the year progresses, and add more and more from there. But there's different instructors, have their areas of expertise, if you will, in terms of what they focus on in the courses. And what if we had a panel discussion amongst those avatars discussing different topics, and they're all AI avatars situated in kind of a panel seating kind of arrangement? And what if you could ask them questions yourself, right? Or what if you could ask an individual instructor questions and get answers? We rolled out Betty on our Learning Hub about 2 weeks ago, right around the same time we rolled out the AI generated content. And so Betty, if you're not familiar, is an AI knowledge assistant that can pop up on a website as a little chat conversational assistant. And so the idea was we wanted to be able to have a tutor in every lesson. So you can just ask any question, and Betty understands which lesson you're in and will give you a Socratic kind of dialogue to help guide you, rather than giving you the answer outright like you might get on a chat interface on a website. You'd get more of a nudge in the direction you might want to go, and ask good questions of the learner. And so the idea there is that's great as a starting point, but what if we could actually have like a full live interactive conversation at any point in time? When you're watching a video, you could just ask a question, and the avatar in that video just starts talking to you, right? It sounds very sci-fi, and today you cannot do this. If you have infinite computing resources at your disposal personally, you could probably do it, but for consumers and for associations, not quite there yet. We will be. I think that technology, it's not a scientific challenge at this point. It's an engineering challenge, and it's a scaling challenge to be able to do interactive, live types of things like like I'm describing. So I would say my prediction is by the end of 2026, we'll probably be there where you can have those kinds of experiences. So plan on that now, because think about how powerful that is. If people could have, two-way discussions or group conversations where you have a group of human students who are learning something with the AI instructor and you're having a group conversation, that could be incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. And I want to acknowledge too, because I'm sure we have some listeners that perhaps like me, there's just some part of them deep inside, maybe not so deep, that thinks, there's something about human delivery. I mean, obviously we're on this podcast right now. You and myself, Amith, we could have AI avatars right now doing this podcast, but there's something about connecting with people and personal relationships and human banter that can be entertaining and informative for people. And I hear you all on that. But again, go check out that episode with Jason, the previous episode, because he brought up a really great point about using AI not just for content creation, but content delivery, and actually pointing out that often human instructors, we have the best intentions, but we might go off on a tangent. We might not be totally up to speed in the latest research-backed instructional design principles. And maybe an AI avatar can be, or with the AI avatar, the video and the voice. So I think there's value in that as well. And I don't know, maybe sometimes a bit of our ego thinks, well, I could do a better job. And maybe that's true. But I do think there's a ton of value in allowing AI to deliver content too.
I agree with that. And I think in the context of associations doing what they do, that's 100% correct. And I also think there's opportunities in the fields, the professions, the industries that the associations represent. Think about an AI avatar representing all of the world's knowledge on medicine, being able to provide real-time, state-of-the-art medical care to somebody. There's obviously lots of challenges, concerns around that, but there's also an immense opportunity because no human doctor, no matter how well trained, no matter how well intentioned, can compete with that. That doesn't mean that humans have no role in this process. It just means that this is an incredibly complementary technology if you think about it from the viewpoint of what AI can do at scale that we are not interested in attempting to keep up because it's not what we do well. Mm-hmm. But I agree with what you said about the pod and other forms of media like this, is that there is an opportunity not only for human expression and for connecting, but there are things that just seem to be the domain of people that seem fun to do, and this certainly is for me. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of people enjoy connecting with when they're on the listener or viewer side as well.
Mm-hmm. And with the AI side, the human side, great for delivery, great for connection. But I think with educational content in particular, and I mentioned this on that episode too, not to spoil everything, but the fact is you spend all this time creating a course and perhaps a new model is released or a new functionality, and you're not going to go back and recreate that whole course with humans. You're just not going to. So having the ability to use AI to bring your members the most recent cutting edge education that you can, I mean, who could argue with that that's beneficial for them?
For sure. I mean, you and I went through that exact experience multiple times recording the Sidecar learning content in prior iterations. And I remember last fall, we re-recorded everything along with a couple of our other colleagues here at Blue Cypress. And we had all the content ready to go. I think it was September. And then a bunch of new things happened. We're like, man, we're out of date already.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like a week later, Amith, it was all these new things, and I thought, man, that would have been great to include in the Learning Hub. I want to move on to the next topic, which is the illusion of thinking. So Apple dropped a research paper with a provocative title, The Illusion of Thinking. The researchers put current AI reasoning models to the test and found something fascinating. These models that seem to think through complex problems are actually just very sophisticated pattern matching machines. When Apple's team made small, irrelevant changes to math problems like changing names or adding extra details that shouldn't matter, the model's performance collapsed dramatically. According to Apple, what looks like reasoning is really just the models following learned patterns from their training data. The moment you step outside those patterns, the thinking falls apart. Now, this critique fits perfectly with Apple's typical playbook. They're rarely first to market with new technology, but they wait, they analyze, and then aim to create the perfect version that meets their exacting standards. While everyone else races to ship AI features, Apple seems to be taking notes on what's broken and potentially building something better in their labs. The question is, Are they making a valid point about fundamental flaws in current AI reasoning, or are they setting up their own grand entrance into the AI race? Amith, you shared this paper on LinkedIn. I know you had some thoughts about it. So what's your initial take on this paper?
Well, I think there's room for everyone's opinion when it comes to AI, and it's worth having a really good open debate around these topics. I think Apple has an agenda here because they're way behind in terms of adopting the current AI. And perhaps I said in LinkedIn, and I'll say it here again, perhaps deep in a lab somewhere in Cupertino, California, they are building a new generation of architecture that is so incredibly advanced beyond what we are aware of that they will shock the world in a year, 2 years, 3 years with some new Apple intelligence that's truly remarkable and, not of this genre. And that is possible. In fact, many researchers are in fact working on the exact same thing. We've talked about that exact topic on this pod that, current language models, vision models, audio models, all are probabilistic machines. Another term is they're autoregressive next token predictors, which essentially is to say they're very fancy autocomplete. And that is technically true. And there's iterations of this where with test time compute or inference time scaling with so-called reasoning models, you're just providing the model more time to think or more time to do more probabilistic computation, as well as to hit the backspace key and edit the prior answer, which is a big thing. But the bottom line is it's not incorrect to say that these are pattern matching algorithms. We've been saying that for a long time. No one is surprised by this. Jan LeCun from Meta, who's the head of Meta's AI, has said many, many times publicly, and that he doesn't believe that language models, large language models, transformer-based architectures are the path to AGI or ASI. He believes that world models and other forms of AI that need to be developed are a path to true reasoning, and he's right. He's right about that. But that doesn't mean that the utility from the current generation of the technology isn't incredibly stunning. Everything we've been talking about in this episode is powered by probabilistic pattern matching, right? That's what it is. And when we start talking about AI, we say there's these things called emergent properties of a model. Now, back in the earlier days of ChatGPT, there was more conversation around this. People would say, well, GPT-3.5 illustrated emergent patterns such as X, Y, and Z. We didn't realize it would be great at language translation, for example, from English to French, because we never asked it to do that. Yet it was really good at English to French or English to 10 other languages. Other emergent properties that initially were not expected by the community were the expertise that AI had in code. Being able to code was not the initial goal for many of the early language models, yet that was one of the first things that came out as a really important use case. So-called emergent properties are just really our inability to look ahead as humans to understand what probabilistic next token or next word predictors might actually result in. So I would say this, they're not wrong, but I don't think they're right either. And why I say they're not right is because it misses the point, which is really what I said on LinkedIn. The point of the current AI is that the utility, the economic value is unbelievable. And so to come in and say, well, actually, the technology behind it isn't really doing what you think it's doing is not incorrect, but it's largely irrelevant. That would be my point of view. Now, I do think that there is tons of room for improvement in the model architectures to go beyond this potentially, but to scale the current model as well, that in ways that will blow away people and they'll have unbelievable opportunity to build. In fact, I would say that we're probably 1% of the way into taking advantage of current state AI. So if you take the most recent frontier models like Claude 4 Opus, OpenAI's O3 Pro that was just released, these are amazing pieces of technology. They have incredible potential. I would guess that we're in the single digits, maybe not 1% for everyone, but even for ourselves who, we're leading the pace in a lot of respects in AI adoption and association land, we're probably 10%, of the potential of the current state of AI. So even if the models never got a bit better, the amount of upside potential there is just because we haven't discovered it yet is enormous. So what I don't like about this paper is the fact that it's causing people who've been sitting on the sidelines to remain on the sidelines. The most important thing you can do with AI right now is to go learn it, experiment with it, and put it to work for you. right? If someone else is using AI to write code 100 times faster than you, or to produce content in other modalities 100 times faster than you might be right that it's using pattern matching, but if the value created is incredible, who cares? What's the difference? So that's my point of view. I was kind of annoyed by it, honestly. It probably came through in what I just said and probably came through in my LinkedIn post, mainly because, again, from a research perspective, they're not wrong. They've shown something interesting about the math, but at the same time, I do think, especially if it comes from Apple, who is a laggard in this phase of the AI race anyway, it could result in people staying on the sidelines. And that's problematic. People need to jump into this and experiment and learn. So that's my main issue with the paper. Bottom line for me is they're not wrong, but they're also definitely not right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was really well said. And if we have any Apple super fans here, just know Amith just bought a MacBook, so he's still a fan. My thoughts were similar to yours, Amith. It was a bit like a duh moment. Haven't we been saying? I don't know if you've been listening to our podcast, we no one's debating this, and I'm with you on the fact that if it's helping us, write and code. Does it really matter that it's not truly thinking? I don't know. I guess I wasn't under the impression that it was truly reasoning, but you're right. It's cool that they mapped it all out and did the math behind it.
There's quite a number of other papers that have come out in the last 6 months that attempt to say similar things. Yet Apple's paper, of course, because it's Apple, got a lot of attention. So I wouldn't go so far as to suggest that the researchers who did this work have any agenda other than showing something that is true and correct and sharing their findings. However, from a business perspective, there's definitely an agenda here to support the idea that, hey, there's a reason we're kind of hanging out. I would simply say this. Please give me a new version of Siri. I'm a big Apple fan. I love my iPhone. I do have a Mac as well. I would like it if Siri wasn't terrible. That would be cool. That'd be really cool. And I don't care if it's probabilistic pattern matching or if it's some innovation Cupertino is working up that, we'd all be blown away by. It doesn't really matter to me. Just give me a better version of Siri, please.
We have like a home pod in our kitchen. And typically when we interact with Siri, it's, hey, Siri, can you feed dogs apples? Like some variation of that. And Siri will say, playing apples on Spotify. And, with as advanced as a society that we're currently living in, it's hard to believe. So yes, please, better Siri. Thank you.
Well, and if you think about it, when you look at the things we just got done talking about in terms of the progression of text to speech, and there's also speech to text and language understanding. And if you use ChatGPT, which is, in my opinion, still the leader in kind of real-time interactive voice mode where you go to ChatGPT's mobile app and you have a conversation, it's understanding deeply nuanced, complex topics and having, full-on human caliber conversations with you on a wide array of topics. I mean, the technology is there. And there's open source solutions that are pretty close to the caliber of OpenAI's real-time voice that are available out there, some of which can run on a phone. So I don't think there's any excuse to this. I think that Apple has had a number of missteps. It's disappointing, but it's also Apple. They've got a couple dollars in the bank. They'll be okay, at least for now. They need to invest some of those bucks into figuring out this problem in the near term. Apple's got their next big event coming up in September with the release of what will likely be the next generation of the iPhone, if patterns of the past are likely to be predictable of the Apples of the future. And so what I would expect from them is maybe an upgrade to Siri that's actually useful, where you can have a longer conversation and all of that. And Apple does say, and I think they're right about this point, they do say that they're very privacy forward and that they're focused on ensuring that the use of AI doesn't undermine their values when it comes to privacy. Love that about Apple. It's one of my favorite things about the company. And I actually believe them that largely they are deeply concerned with consumer privacy. I don't think that's true for any of the other major, companies at that tier of size. But I really think it is true for Apple. But at the same time, I think you can give consumers choice, where you can say, listen, we have a better version of Siri. It does require processing more of the conversation on the server. We will delete the conversation within 5 minutes after your conversation ends or whatever. Are you okay with that? And if so, then opt in and you get Siri that's good, right? Whereas if you don't, then you can stick with Siri from 2012 or whatever it was. But I do think that you can, give people the privacy that they want, but also inform the consumer about the options and, level them up a little bit.
So it sounds like your take is that anybody listening doesn't need to look at this paper and say, I knew it. These models are not reasoning, therefore we're not going to be using them.
I'm sure millions of people will say that. And there are people who are incredibly bright, some of the smartest people I know that are very much on the sidelines of AI. A lot of them are engineers that are incredibly bright, technical people who say, no, I can't use AI to code. I can't use AI for this. It's not perfect yet. And my question to them, which I usually don't ask, is, are you perfect? And the answer is, of course not. But AI is honestly more perfect than we would expect from a human colleague in almost all tasks already. So that's my point of view, is that I think that unfortunately this paper will have the effect of causing people who are, kind of the people who are detractors, who are like, saying, no, I'm not going to use AI either for various reasons, but they're in the camp they're in. But there's a lot of people that are thinking, hey, I really need to get on top of this AI thing, and they haven't made the leap yet. And then Apple comes out and says, hey, there's this concern, these current models, they're really not that great. It's kind of how it's going to be interpreted. And because it's Apple, a lot of people are listening. So that's my issue with this, is that I think it is opportunistic to use their brand in such a way which makes it look like what they're doing is okay. I don't agree with that. So that's my point of view. I could be totally wrong about their motivations, but that's how I interpreted it.
Yep, I hear that. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you haven't, check out the prior episode that we've mentioned only 8 times on today's pod. Amith, wishing you a good hackathon next week, and everyone, we'll see you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Sidecar Sync this week. Looking to dive deeper? Download your free copy of our new book, Ascend, Unlocking the Power of AI for Associations at ascendbook.org. It's packed with insights to power your association's journey with AI. And remember, Sidecar is here with more resources, from webinars to boot camps, to help you stay ahead in the association world. We'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep disrupting.